Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, building experiences that connect, remove friction, and deliver insights. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Stephen Grasse. Stephen is the founder of Quaker City Mercantile and the creator of Hendrick's Gin, Sailor Jerry Rum, Art in the Aged Spirits, and Tamworth Distilling, among others. He also helped revive legacy brands such as Narragansett, Miller High Life, Guinness, and Pilsner Urquell. His previous books include The Evil Empire, 101 Ways That England Ruined the World, Colonial Spirits, A Toast to Our Drunken History, and The Cocktail Workshop, An Essential Guide to Classic Drinks and How to Make Them on Your Own. His new book with Aaron Goldfarb is Brand Mysticism, Cultivate Creativity, and Intoxicate Your Audience. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Stephen Grasse.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, first off, Stephen, why do you do what you do?
Well, that's an interesting question with a spiritual answer. I believe that creativity is why we're here. I live to create. If I don't create, I die. And it sounds ridiculous, but I actually believe that creativity is what gives us a moral purpose on the planet. So I'm like a shark of creativity. I can't stop creating.
Well, tell us then about your new book, Brand Mysticism, Cultivate Creativity and Intoxicate Your Audience.
Okay, so my co-writer on this is Aaron Goldfarb, and he's a real writer. He writes for the New York Times and magazines like Esquire. So he's like actually the real deal. And I worked with Aaron because he was able to help me articulate this strange, mystical process I go through when I create my different brands that I've made. And it's interesting because until Aaron came along, I don't really explain how I do what I do. I just do it. And I've gotten to such a degree in my business dealings that no one seems to question how I do it. They just hire me to do it because my brands go viral and become famous.
So what did you learn about yourself then in working with Aaron about that?
That I live a very strange life and it's not normal.
But about the creative process, let's say, what were you able to articulate that was perhaps just inherent in you, and you were able to get it out on paper, or Aaron was able to get it out on paper?
Okay, so in the book we talk a lot about how I create in a similar way that bands create music, and I use a lot of examples in the book are centered around bands like Led Zeppelin. And what I talk about how is my brands never make any sense, but it's the mashup of different ideas that forms a very unique identity and a very unique vision. So, for instance, Led Zeppelin, they sing about Tolkien and trolls, but they do it with Mississippi blues. And if you think about that, it makes no sense. But it's the unique mashup of their influences that creates something enduring and breaks through because it's very unique and different. We talk a lot about Bowie in the book too, David Bowie, who worked in a very similar way. And David Bowie used to travel with a trunk of books. And he would write all of his songs based on the influences from those books. So I'm a ferocious reader. I read. We talk a lot in the book about how if you want to create interesting brands, you need to live an interesting life. And that interesting life comes from getting off the internet and not looking at social media, and instead reading dusty old tomes of swashbuckling characters and interesting philosophies, and then swirling it all together in really strange mashups that create something totally unique. And Hendrick's Gin is probably my most famous example of what I've done with that. That brand is in literally every country in the world. You know you're in a bar if if they don't have Hendrick's gin at this point. And what makes Hendrick so enduring is the very strange and curious way that we've pieced it together. So, and I go through in the book details about how I did that. So it's a stream of consciousness, of oddity and psychosis.
The author Matt Ridley has a great phrase for innovation. He says that innovation is when ideas have sex. How would you respond to that?
Oh my God, I'm going to use that. That's great because. Yeah, I think it's like, so the idea is if you don't read interesting things, where do your interesting ideas come from? Because you're just looking at the same crap that everyone else is looking at. But if you're reading like I just finished War and Peace. I'm now reading Alex de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. Before that, I finished Moby Dick. Like I read all the time, and the older and weirder and more esoteric, the better, because you're pulling out sources and just different ideas that are actually old, but they're so old they're new again, right?
Well, I think it's true. I think it's been said that you read nonfiction for knowledge, but you read fiction for wisdom.
Oh, that's great too. I love that, man. You're giving me all the quotes today. I love it.
Well, I'm glad to respond to that. Is that something you would definitely incorporate that concept into how you look at things, right? You take the wisdom of these ancient books and give a modern spin to it, let's say.
Yes, you have to put them into context because it's interesting too. I think what we do really well is take things that are old and we spin them into fresh new ways because nobody likes, like sometimes when it's just old, it feels old and dusty. Whereas if you take something that's elements or fragments of different things from different eras or different ideas, and you mash them into a fresh new package or idea, it feels very fresh. But if you just take old stuff for the sake of old stuff, it just feels like, granny panties, and nobody wants that, right?
And Stephen, we have an exit question we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
I'm going to give you two. First one is Ben Franklin. Okay. I live in Philadelphia. My office is like 2 doors down from Ben Franklin's house and post office, the museum. He was a polymath, right? A true polymath, a genius. And I remember a great story of Ben Franklin when he discovered the source of electricity. And no one in the British Scientific Club or whatever, the Royal Scientific Club, believed that a podunk person from Philadelphia could have possibly done that. And I just felt that, what I love too about Ben Franklin is how playful he was throughout his whole life. He used to sit naked in the window right here on Market Street in a hot summer night and take an air bath. And he actually delighted in the fact that everyone could see him doing so. I want to be like that. I want to take an air bath on Market Street. And then my other big influence is a man named Malcolm McLaren. Malcolm McLaren is, if you're a music person, he created the Sex Pistols, Adam and the Ant, Bow Wow Wow. He owned a store in London, a clothing shop called Sex. But the clothing shop is, he created a band, the Sex Pistols, to sell clothes, right? But I think he was a genius in mashing up different ideas and fashion and sounds together. And I've always used him as an inspiration for my career.
And lastly, Stephen, how can somebody contact you?
If it's despite hating the social media, you can find me on Instagram under my name, Stephen Grasse. Or if it's a business inquiry, go to my company website, Quaker City Mercantile, qcmercantile.com, and you'll find me. Okay?
All right. Stephen Grasse, founder of Quaker City Mercantile, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.